Nobody Wants to Die is a game that pretty much appeared out of nowhere back in 2024, with little of the hype that most big name games use in the build up to their release. Created by the developer, Critical Hit Games, it has gained a cult following of people who just adore both the futuristic tech-noir setting and the deep immersive story about a detective living in a world where people can potentially be immortal, via the act of using other people's bodies when their own one dies. From the sumptuous graphics, to the atmospheric soundtrack, and the excellent voice acting.
I leave the body of a dead god on the flaming Mount Olympus. Time to go back to the underworld he cast us all into.
It will likely keep you enthralled throughout. It's around 2329, and technological advancement has created something called Icarite, which allows your consciousness to be transferred from one body to another, meaning a potentially never-ending life. But it's not all good news, since legislation has created a future where people's bodies no longer belong to them once they reach 21, and you have to pay a subscription fee to keep it. There's no opting out. Instead, if you fall behind on payments, your body effectively gets taken from you, with your mind sent to a memory bank. You start the game playing as James Kara, a detective who has recently acquired a new body after dying in a train accident. Like most body swaps in this dystopian future, the synchronization between your own mind and your new body can be quite problematic, leading to a form of psychosis, and James often has trouble keeping his mind straight, having to resort to special medication that helps him with the process. From a simple call to investigate a crime scene, James is then taken on a journey of conspiracy that potentially involves some very important people and some very adult themes. The game has you playing from a first-person perspective, and you rarely get to see what the current body of James actually looks like, apart from the instances where you're standing near a mirror, meaning you're very much seeing things through his eyes, lending connection to the character that a third-person perspective wouldn't have provided. While you do have to click on numerous actions to progress, and are able to pick up certain objects and look at them, as well as having a look around the areas, you are very much playing towards what the developer wants you to do, as the whole experience is virtually set in stone like an interactive movie.
It's blood. Turn on the UV lamp.
The only chance of freedom in choice being when the conversation options pop up with a timer bar next to them. It means that there is very little chance in you losing your way or finding the next task to do, since virtually everything has to be done in a set order, according to whatever you're prompted to do. The main gimmick that the game employs is the ability to effectively see back in time via a device that reconstructs what recently happened. It's quite a complex process that is used to perform detective work in the 24th century, and I imagine that coding such a complex sequence for each crime scene you encounter was quite difficult to plan out for the developer, hence why everything ends up so on rails. These sections feel very much like the braindance segments of Cyberpunk 2077, since they both involve playing back people's experiences and investigating what went on. The difference is, this game is entirely focused on this, whereas Cyberpunk 2077 only utilises it for certain missions, meaning that the whole of this game is very much just like a very in-depth side mission. There is no free roam as such, or ability to properly explore the city around you, save for the brief moments of semi-free movement around James Kara's apartment, leading to my feeling that the game is just a little too hemmed in, and could have done with a bit more world building and exploration to really make the story and experience work. The detective work itself has some variances, from using different tools and offering different elements of gameplay, from photographing scenes to find evidence, using a UV tool to find footprints or splatters, an X-ray tool to find hidden electrical circuits or showing the path of bullets, and even a section where you get to link pieces of evidence together. There isn't really much chance to go off the beaten track, or indeed make the wrong decision. It would have been nice to examine the crime scene yourself, found bullet holes for example, then decided to maybe use a certain device to trace this trajectory and find out where they came from, rather than us getting, look at this marker, oh look, bullet holes, now take your X-ray device out and see where it came from, and just blatantly telling you what to do. Conversations are also like this, offering for the most part an illusion of choice, but the reality is that, save for literally just a couple of key conversation options that force you to decide too quickly, the majority of the game just involves you playing exactly how you're told to play. Of course, I'm not having a go here, since plenty of games, if not the majority, will be very fixed from a story perspective. It's just that the experience feels almost too rigid for a story-focused detective game. An interactive movie or novel, it very much is. Don't get me wrong, I applaud the effort that went into making a game such as this, since it really is quite cool, but at the same time, I can't help feeling that there is something lacking. And that, unfortunately, was the theme of my experience throughout the game. The concept is certainly interesting at first, I just don't think it was executed as well as it could have been. Since everything is so super guided and fixed, indeed, it might be better to call the game Nobody Wants You to Do Any Detective Work Yourself. Another issue is that the game is sometimes blasting you with so much new information that it doesn't quite make sense.
James, I've been talking to you for 10 minutes.
It adds more facts to the story, but these tend to create more questions than provide answers. It's almost like getting pieces of a puzzle, but they all belong to different puzzles, so you're never actually completing any of them. Ultimately, whether you eventually rate this game positively or negatively will be partly influenced by whether you either get the good ending, played the game in one sitting,
Please select a seat.
or whether you just fell head over heels in love with the futuristic tech-noir setting. For me, I was left with a more disappointing negative ending, but that really is only part of the reason I wasn't truly happy with this game. Sadly, despite the genuinely interesting concept, from both story to gameplay, too much of it is on rails, and too much depends on a decision placed quite a long way from the end. Having to pick something with that importance ends up becoming a random choice. Also, the game bombards you with information, yet I still feel like there was so much that was left unexplained, leading to confusion about a number of topics, including that major decision.
As usual.
So then, do I think you should get this game? Well, yes, if it's on offer.
Every penny snatched away from the citizens. I bet they're all celebrating.
Because it is indeed a unique experience in itself that is worthy of a playthrough, and is also a good achievement from a previously unknown developer. It pretty much came from nowhere, with little fanfare, and so deserves credit for carving out its own fanbase from scratch. However, in the grand scheme of things, I just can't elevate it to gushing levels of praise, when I spent a good chunk of the game being a bit bored by everything being too guided, the story being too complex with too many unresolved plot pieces, and the fact that it's not easy to hop in and out of the game without potentially losing either a good chunk of playtime, or just losing connection with the game altogether.
Not good.
It is very much a play in one sitting game,
I know.
if you want to stay connected with a story and character, and playing the way I did, over multiple sessions across multiple weekends, probably killed my own personal involvement with the game and its story.
Shocking! Outrageous!
It's also better if you treat it as a detective-themed story, rather than a proper detective game.
Sounds like good advice.
Still, I do hope to see what the developer does in the future, and whether they learn a little from fan feedback. Anyway, that's it for this review. Thank you for watching, and remember, nobody wants to die. Possibly.
I'd say that tells you pretty much everything you need to know.